New York City, September 2022. I'm great at talking myself out of doing things. In fact, I say no to everything so often that James has started calling me Erasno Guerra. Take this morning in late September. The Downtown Alliance, which is this booster organization for Lower Manhattan, was holding this event they were calling Adopt a Plant, where they were going to give away begonias to city residents beginning at 10 a.m. I hadn't quite thought out where the plants and flowers were going to be coming from until I was already on Broadway. It was a bright morning in which everyone was rushing to work, and I was heading to Trinity Church on Broadway and Wall, where I was supposed to meet James after his chiropractor appointment that morning. And passing Zuccotti Park, I noticed the city workers who were digging up all of the flowering bushes that had been in the planters all summer. So that's where these plants were going to come from, the parks in the neighborhood. And sure enough, as we reached Bowling Green at the southern terminus of Broadway, once we passed the early morning hordes that were at the Charging Bull statue to take a photo grabbing its balls polished from so much accumulated handling, I noticed through the slats of the wrought iron fence that all of the flowers had been dug out from around the fountain, and all that was left was the dark, overturned dirt, and the string of LED lights that lit up at night, which gave off this eerie effect of old gaslight lamps, and which I had always told myself I would return to one evening to capture and record on a YouTube video, but had yet to do. The line this morning at the Bull had been long, but the line for the begonias seemed even longer. The Downtown Alliance had set up some tables under some red tents by the park gates that faced the Museum of the American Indian. I had been waiting to take myself there for an artist date for weeks now, and I never made myself available. Something about my work schedule or something. The begonias were stuffed into these black totes that James thought looked cool, and when I pointed out why we shouldn't actually take any of the plants, he whimpered that he would have at least liked one of the bags. And the reason I told James we shouldn't take a plant was due to the rats that overrun the city parks. Just last weekend, on a walk we took past Collect Pond, we had seen rats rooting through the bushes. Couldn't bear the thought of bringing that back into our apartment. But apparently I was the only one who was always overthinking things, because there were a ton of people there. Gray-haired, middle-aged guys like me in shorts and hoodies against the late September chill. Chic white women in cashmere ponchos who looked as if they could have bought an entire greenhouse of begonias instead of taking these orphan plants. Hunched over little Asian women with their husbands, and these stunning black women with silver wraps and shiny silver ankh earrings dangling against their ebony necks. Once it was decided that the flowers were a no-go, James went off to work, and I stayed on the plaza in front of the museum to watch the rest of the event as it wound down. Behind me, a Spanish woman gave a guided walking tour. She carried a little amplifier, and her Castilian Spanish echoed through the canyon of downtown New York as she explained a little about the day's itinerary. All the same streets I covered in my YouTube channel, though she had way more people gathered around her this morning than I had views on my own videos. She also shared a bit of her own personal story. Her mom was from Madrid, her father from Texas. And when she asked, "Anyone from Texas?" I felt the urge to let out some whoops and hollers until I reminded myself that I wasn't part of the tour group. She led them off to Stone Street, or as she called it, Calle de la Piedra, which was a literal translation, and I wondered if those words in Spanish really captured the significance of the old street, New York's first. I continued to linger at my spot, still watching, regretfully, at the tables with the bagged begonias. The crew of city workers had replenished the stock, and now, even though the event's online invitation had said there would be a limit of 1 plant per person, folks were walking off with a bag in each hand. One couple walked away with 4. Should I go up and take one and surprise James when he got back home? But the memory of those park rats sent a shiver up my spine, and I shook my head no, just to remind myself that I couldn't do it. I had even thought about making a video of the plant giveaway that morning, until I talked myself out of that too, questioning this whole new thing I had taken up, documenting the city through video, rather than my usual journalism, the stories that I used to tell about life in New York these past, how long has it been? Nearly 30 years? More years of my life spent in this city than any place else, including Texas, where my family's from. Before setting out that morning, I had packed my gimbal and an external microphone, but I left them in my bag as I pulled out my notebook from my back pocket and started taking furious longhand notes like I used to from all my years as a freelance journalist and a professional chronicler. I hung out and wrote until my fingers got cold from the chill, and the Spanish tour group, where all the young guys smoking in the back dressed like Bad Bunny wannabes, left. And in came a bunch of public school kids on a weekday field trip, the teacher making a scavenger hunt game out of the statuary in front of the museum. I put my notes back into my jean back pocket and headed out, taking one last glance at the naked earth surrounding the fountain and how it made me think of freshly dug graves for some reason. Maybe it was the memory of having walked past that Halloween store, Spirit, that was preparing to open on Broadway. Or maybe it was just that feeling that I didn't want to die with any more regrets. On that slow walk up Broadway, that stretch designated as the Canyon of Heroes, this one entrepreneurial Asian woman was pushing a rickety laundry cart packed with begonias. A wheel got caught in one of the sidewalk markers that commemorated one of those ticker tape parades that they've held in the city over the decades. But the woman managed to keep the cart from toppling over and continued to push her floral bounty north in the direction of Chinatown. I looked up ahead and could see the shiny steeple of the Chrysler Building gleaming in the autumn morning light, and I was grateful that I had never talked myself out of abandoning this city and the bigger dreams I had that went beyond platforms like YouTube or Instagram or whatever new thing the tech industry would roll out next. At the newspaper stand, I noticed a stack of AM New York, the daily free newspaper where I used to do these neighborhood profiles. And when I struggled to pull out a copy from under the weight of whatever was holding it down, the guy from the newsstand who was arranging all of the other stuff that folks paid actual money for came over and asked, "Need help?" He didn't even wait for my reply, and he lifted something to release one copy of the free newspaper, and I walked off feeling overwhelmed and stunned by my gratitude. It'd been a long time since someone had asked me whether I needed any help. Writing this letter on my typewriter was also one of those ideas that I nearly talked myself out of, arguing with myself that I should work on my computer laptop instead. That was more professional, and I would have a guaranteed copy of what I'd written in case I wanted to turn this into something. Something that tells someone out there what it was like and how it all felt on this morning in late September in New York.
Thanks for listening. Want to hear more? Check out these other stories. Thank you.